Yeah, okay. So let's resume with a different speaker. Gudrun Senk, Head of Asset Development and Realization and Management for Wien Energie. Gudrun has more than 15 years of experience in various roles in the energy and climate sector, from consulting to industry experience, and is one of the pioneers in green and sustainable energy systems in Austria. Gudrun Senk joined Austria's largest energy company in 2009 and responsible for development, realization and management of new and existing production assets. She heads research and energy technology in Wien Energie. So Gudrun, the floor is yours, and we hope this holds on.
So good afternoon from my side. A warm welcome to a short introduction on how Vienna, as one of the urban metropolitans in Europe, is trying to come closer to this political will and this political vision of zero CO2 in 2050. So what I would like to show is, first of all, just a few words to my company. Vienna Energie is the largest Austrian energy provider, and we are investing heavily to make this energy transition become reality. So we're investing about 150 to 200 million euro every year, mainly into new production assets which go into a more renewable and decentralized sector. And we have more than 2,500 employees. We have electromobility. We supply our products to more than 2 million people. We are Austria's largest solar energy producer. We have solar plants with civic contributions, so civic power plants. And our heart of the existing power plant asset base are combined heat power plants on a gas basis. So highly efficient combined heat power plants, but still on a fossil basis, but still very important also in the existing energy system to stabilize the grid needs. So for example, our energy base, our combined heat power plants were necessary for more than 200 times last year to stabilize the grid, not also for Austria, but also for southern Germany and surrounding countries of Austria. So by now it's not possible to only rely on renewable sources, but you need some strong backbone also on conventional technologies. We deliver district heating for more than 380,000 households, and we have large key account customers. We have a large customer base which also wants to talk to us, with about 1 million calls every year. We burn waste in order to generate electricity and heat, and we are also in innovative new technologies like blockchain and others. So now coming to the topic of today's presentation. We already heard that heating consumes a lot of energy, and Emma told it quite correctly. It's much too small to only think of renewable power if you want to be serious with the energy transition. A few numbers for Austria. We have, or for Vienna, if you compare it, we only have about 20% of our total energy needs we have for electricity, but we have about 40% for heating needs and for hot water, and about the same for mobility. So if you really want to come closer to a CO2 neutrality, then you have to address also the mobility sector and the heating sector. And if you look on the right side of the chart, then you see the share of renewable energy in Vienna by now. And you see in electricity we are already quite processed. We have already more than half of it, nearly 2/3 of it. But in the heating sector it's only 13%, so there's a long way to go. And in mobility it's even worse. It's only 8% of renewable sources by now. So there's a lot to do, and the question is it realistic that by 2050, which, speaking in terms of an energy producer or a utility, is, so to say, tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, because we are thinking in very long investment cycles, is it really realistic and possible to change to a zero CO2 society by 2050? So we did a long and intense study together with Ecofys. Some of you might know Ecofys. It's a quite large consulting company. We called it electricity, heat and mobility scenarios for the decarbonization in the larger area of Vienna. And we tried to analyze, first of all, is it possible by technical means get to this decarbonization, or is it just a political vision? And secondly, what does it take to get closer to the 0% CO2? And third of all, if we want to do it and we can do it, how much will it cost? So 3 quite simple questions, but hard to answer. And what we found out in this study, which, by the way, you can download also from our homepage if you're interested in the detailed analysis and how we did that, we found out that, first of all, one of the major premises or the preconditions in order to come closer to carbon neutrality is to reduce the need of heat drastically. So without a total renovation of the building stock, to come closer to a heat demand below 50 kilowatt hours per square meters, it is simply not possible by the existing or well-known means of technology to come closer to a decarbonization. Secondly, we need an expansion and total decarbonization of the district system heating. We heard before, especially from Emma, that the decentralized heating systems have to grow. We do fully agree. There is no CO2-free future for a city without a strong carbon district heating system. It's not possible for a single household to decarbonize in a multi-story building. You need some large producers which can insert more decarbonized heat into the system. Then we also thought to what technologies can help us, and also our answer was we need decentralized heat pumps in a large amount, and we need low temperature networks. So we have to get rid of 140 degree temperature networks which distribute very high amounts of hot water. It's not efficient enough. So we have to come down with the temperatures in the networks for the district heating systems and the individuals. Starting in 2025, a large-scale replacement of fossil fuels need to take place towards renewable green gas, where I don't say green gas is necessarily and primarily hydrogen, but it probably will also be to a large extent synthetic natural gas, because our end consumers do heat with the natural gases, so we cannot simply say, please exchange all your heating systems and go to hydrogen suitable systems. So we think that in the next 20-30 years we will see a lot of synthetic methane coming through the pipelines and to our end customers, and maybe also to our power plants. Then what we also need is a reduction of motorized individual traffic, an increased use of public transport and bicycles, and 100% electric or fuel cell vehicles in order to make carbon neutrality by 2050. And what does it cost? Well, for the larger area of Vienna, we calculated that it would cost about an estimation of 28 billion euro for the entire time span between 2017 and 2050, which makes, on the calculation, about 850 million euro per year, which is quite a lot of money. But still, I would say, due to priority setting, it would be manageable. If we want to do it, we could do it. So it's about 1% of the GDP of the area of Vienna. So it is quite an effort, but it would be manageable. So if it is really a political will to do it, then I think we could afford it. So then, to come to some more detail about the heating market, because the topic of this session is the district heating system, then unfortunately I don't have a pointer here, but on the left-hand slide you see by 2015 in Vienna we had the dark brown field which comes from oil and gas. We have district heating on top of it, we have electricity heating, and we have a little bit of biomass. If we want to go into a decarbonization scenario in 2050, then our choice of technologies, which we see today and we hope that could bring a larger amount of contribution to the decarbonization goal, then we would need, of course, definitely to get rid of all the fossil heatings. Before I come to the other ones, I have to say, if you look at the left column, it's much larger than the right column. So first precondition would be to shrink our needs for the heating. So we have to get more efficient. If we don't get more efficient, then it will be very, very hard to reach this 100% CO2 neutrality. So first of all, more efficiency, and we would need to reduce by nearly 50% our heating needs by 2050. Otherwise, we would not succeed in making it CO2 neutral. So we would then again get rid of all the fossil heating. We would have a very high proportion of district heating in the heating needs that we have. And we would have also a big proportion of electricity heating in the future. We would of course have some biomass and especially green gas, and we would need some more ambient heat by heat pumps using ambient heat like industrial heating or whatever, the underground stations, and there's million of possibility how to use the ambient heat. So our target would be to bring more new technologies in the district heating system, and I have shown some examples on the right hand. We also hope to be able to use geothermal power, but not the power for electricity, but power for heat, so the geothermal heat in Vienna. And we hope to have a contribution of about 1/3 of all our district heating needs by 2050 out of geothermal energy. We say we hope it because unfortunately in Vienna it's not that simple with our geology, because it's quite complex to find the geothermal energy below Vienna. So we hope to tap this potential. We are also setting a high focus on large heat pumps. We think about 20% of our entire district heating needs could come from large heat pumps. And the waste incineration will be a continuous element. I know that there are many discussions about do we still have enough waste in the future, and we are also efficient, and the circular economy will help us to reuse all the waste. There will not be waste anymore to burn. We do not really think that it will be that easy to get rid of waste, and we think that there will still be some waste incineration plants in the future which can provide heat to our customers. So that is our future for the technological side, what is in terms of production. And another important issue, how to come to a decarbonized Vienna in the heating area, is that not only the production needs to change, but also the distribution of our energy system, of our heating energy system needs to change fundamentally. So we have to get rid of those some few large energy or heat producers insert a lot of energy in a circle where all the heat is transported in the circle, and if some of the customers need some heat, they take it out, but otherwise we send it in the circle again and again. We need to totally and fundamentally change our thinking of how the energy distribution network works. It will be much more like a system that we already know from the power sector. So nobody has thought of Speicher, storage, thank you, of heat storage in the past. Yeah? In the electricity sector, we all know that we need some batteries or other storage. In the heat sector, it's not so common sense. So we need to go much more in the thinking, where do we need those flexibility options in our system in terms of maybe even seasonal storage over a few months, where you store in the underground or with some new technologies the heat for a few months to transfer it from summer into winter. We have to think of short-term flexibility options with hot water boilers in a large extent. We have to think of efficiency in the grid distribution, like reduction of the temperatures in the grid network. We have to think of digitalization at the end of the transport network at the customer side. We have to give bi-directional impulses. When do our customers need the heat, and what temperature do they need in order to increase the efficiency and make the system as an entire system work? We have to change our generation assets, as I already told before. We have to integrate a lot of new technologies into our heating system, and we have to go until the final buildings, and we have to change the building infrastructure and the heating needs at the end customer. Otherwise, we will not be successful in the end with a zero CO2 target. So that's it in a nutshell. Now, one more Our first steps that we already have taken in the district heating system of Vienna. We are working a lot on bringing a green CHP, a green combined heat power plant into life, but it's a long way to go that we have to do there in research areas. How can we integrate synthetic natural fuels like hydrogen or methane into our power plants? We have taken into operation a very large heat pump last year with 35 megawatt thermal. We have a big research project ongoing for the deep geothermal energy for the heating purpose, where we did a very large 3D seismic acquisition of about 160 square kilometers, where we have analyzed the deep ground below Vienna for locating ideal deep geothermal spots. We are trying and working on the digitalization of the district heating network. We have installed some sector coupling installations to get some more flexibility into the system, like a power-to-heat station with 2 times 10 megawatt blocks opened in 2017. And we are setting on a strategy in order to further develop our waste incineration plants and maybe for the future even develop further waste incineration capacities. So that's our strategy, and that's what we see as needs for the future decarbonized heating system. Yeah, and last of all, there is a saying of Mr. John F. Kennedy, which I like a lot, when the US Americans planned to go to the moon. Many said it's not possible and it costs so much, maybe there's a more efficient option, maybe we should focus on other targets. But Mr. Kennedy said, I think we're going to do it, and I think that we must pay what needs to be paid. And maybe that should be our vision also for the goal of 0 CO2 emissions in 2050. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Gudrun. First, any questions? Anybody among the audience who has a question? I have a question for you. 2030, all of these changes, that's a very ambitious time scale and very ambitious change. It's probably difficult to quantify, but how important is the fact that you have an existing district heating scheme there? I mean, in your analysis with Ecofish, what was the alternative? Did you consider an all-electric, renewable gas scenario? Basically, my question is, weren't you fortunate to have district heating beforehand?
Very interesting question, and yes, you're totally right. If we would not have had an existing district heating network, then probably we would not be able to now integrate a new district heating system into the city. Because if you have a fully functioning city with buildings and streets all over the place, you cannot really install in an existing city a large district heating network. You can do it in a new department or a new quarter of the city where you have new building activity, then you can already rely some new district heating system. But it's very hard to afterwards integrate district heating in an existing city. You can work partially on it, but you cannot start from the scratch to build it totally new. And what we found in our analysis, the second part of your question, because I think there were 5 questions in your question packed in. To answer a second question, in our opinion, the district heating, to make the district heating green is much more efficient and easier to make the end user single heating system clean and green. It's cheaper, it's more efficient, and it goes faster because you have some drivers in the seat, central drivers like the utilities, which can have a big impact and can drive this change. If you are waiting for the single household to change, then it takes ages. And nobody likes a government which says you are obliged to change something, and therefore the politicians find it very hard to make some regulation, and therefore they don't do it because they don't get re-elected. If somebody is telling you, go into your house and throw out the old heating system, it will only cost you a few €1,000, but we want to change and global heating is a problem and you have to contribute, then you will not be re-elected. So it's much easier for us as utilities to go into this role and to change from a central part of view.
I don't know if I misunderstood you, but were you saying that if you don't have an existing district heating system, you cannot change your city? Because, I mean, you know, if you want to change the heat supply, it's fortunate to have a district heating system, but those cities who do not have one, won't they have to build one? Because, I mean, if you want to change to an all-electric heating system, you got to dig up the streets anyhow. And where's that, you know, there's a long discussion where you're going to get that electricity and can that, you know, how costly is that? Is there really an alternative to district heating in your view?
Yes, well, there would be an alternative, which is to use, as you already mentioned, the existing gas infrastructure and to bring green gas into the gas infrastructure which you have in a city. What I wanted to say is it is a lot easier if you have an existing district heating network, because it's then easier, it's faster and it's cheaper to make that green. You can also change to green gas. That's also an option. By now we don't have that much green gas in reachable distance and time distance. And I'm always a friend of to quote again somebody, we are long on targets, but we are short on actions. So I always find it great if we discuss about long-term visions and how to change an entire city and how we can get until 2050 whatever targets. But if we don't start to move forward and if we don't take action now where we see the option to take it now, then we will not get anywhere. And time is passing and passing and passing, and it takes years to get such a change project done. So therefore, please let's start doing something instead of waiting that we have the perfect solution.